everyone, Mattview Reviews here, and today we'll be looking at something a little bit different than what I usually look at in terms of the genre of animation. We'll be discussing Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. And there are two main reasons why I'm doing this film. One is because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I grew up with Star Wars. I watched Episode 4, 5, 6, and 1 on VHS tape over and over and over again when I was a kid. I remember one kind of memory of being in the theater for Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Obviously, I was 6 at the time, so wasn't really going to have too many great memories, especially with Attack of the Clones. And I remember being in theater for Revenge of the Sith. I remember being in the drive-in for the Clone Wars movie. And then, of course, I have great memories of seeing The Force Awakens and Rogue One in my later years. And I have a great memory of seeing The Last Jedi now. Being that when I went to go see it, just a quick story, in my theater, I purchased my tickets ahead of time. I go to the theater. I look down my right, and I just see a line of people stretching all the way back, and they're saying, okay, you're going to go into this theater and wait. And I'm like, I'm this far back in line? Are you kidding me? And I was in like the 5th row of another theater because the line was that long, stretching to the IMAX theater, which was dead center. And I'm just like, oh my God, this is insane. How am I going to get a good seat? And thankfully I did get a good seat because I was the only one that went. That's sad. But anyway, I went by myself because I have no friends. No, I went by myself that night because I have friends that like Star Wars. I have friends that enjoy Star Wars, one of which is unfortunately not nearby, so I wanted to see it opening night, and no one else would go with me opening night because they're not insane like I am. So I went by myself because I don't really care. But yeah, so I had a great experience seeing The Last Jedi with the opening night crowd on IMAX. I saw it again today with my parents. It was a great time. I really enjoy The Last Jedi. I'll say that before I get into anything. I really loved it. It's one of my favorites in the series. I mean, I still love the original trilogy. Excuse me. I would say that of the films outside the original trilogy, I was always, as a kid, never the hugest fan of Return of the Jedi. I still like it and I still have a fondness for it, but I'm not like, I don't sit down and I'm like, cool, am I going to watch Star Wars? I'd be like, do I watch 1? Do I watch Empire? Return of the Jedi doesn't pop into my head, but I still like it. Phantom Menace, the lightsaber battle is my favorite. I love it. That's really all I can say is the rest of it, yeah, but the lightsaber battle is amazing. I will always give it that. So, I mean, I have a special place. I liked Force Awakens very much. I really liked Rogue One. And I loved The Last Jedi. And then I love the originals. And I enjoy Revenge of the Sith and the end of Phantom Menace. And not really much of Attack of the Clones, personally. But that's just me. And that's my history of Star Wars. Comprised in 3 minutes, pretty much. But, yeah, so... But the second reason I'm making this video is because just based off looking at just interaction with friends and seeing just online, there is a strong divide amongst fans of thoughts on this film. People seem to either love it or hate it incredibly. There are very few people that I know of or I've seen that are just, it was okay. It's either strong love or strong hate. I mean, some people do like it but realize there's flaws, but the love conquers it more than anything. So, I mean, I wanted to put my hat in the ring and talk about why I liked it. And also, I have a lot of friends who did not enjoy the film very much. And I wanted to take their thoughts and points and discuss them as well. And see if I can explain why their arguments either don't affect me, how I see it completely differently, or how I completely disagree. Or, in some cases, how I even agree. So we're going to go through all that. But before we do anything, I asked a couple of my friends to send me a list of their issues of the film. So I want to give them a quick thank you. So thank you to my brother Michael and my buddy Bill, and of course my friends as well, Travis, Will, Shoes, and Stump. I want to thank you guys very much. You really gave me a lot of good points, and I'm happy that we can discuss the film without wanting to kill each other, except for me and my brother. But, you know, brothers will do that. So anyway, we're going to talk about the film. It's obviously spoilers. I'm going to try. I was originally going to do this to where I talked about the whole film throughout, but it was getting long and I was going way off topic. It's still going to be long probably, but hopefully I don't, after doing it almost once, I don't repeat myself 18 times on the same point. So, really quick, Absolutely. Before I really get into bit by bit, I want to say that the acting throughout the entire film is fantastic. Mark Hamill is incredible. I'm not using hyperbole when I say that I believe he should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. He was fantastic. He played all the right notes of drama, humor, lightheartedness. It was fantastic. And especially for a role that he wasn't even completely behind. You see him in interviews, he's discussing that he didn't feel like this was the next progression for Luke Skywalker. But yet he played it out the way Rian Johnson wanted, and he respected Rian Johnson's vision that he did it the best of his ability. And he did fantastically. So I think that's absolutely fantastic. I think he should be nominated for Best Supporting Actor. I know I might sound like a fanboy, but watch his performance. It is fantastic. It's definitely something that should be at least discussed. But acting all throughout is fantastic. Daisy Ridley is fantastic. Carrie Fisher. Rest in peace. My God, she was good. John Boyega is great. He's very charming. Oscar Isaac's great. Adam Driver is very compelling as Kylo Ren. Just across the board, fantastic acting. And then, of course, great directing by Rian Johnson. The shots in this film, there are a lot of iconic shots. You just see something, you're like, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Someone make art of that. That is fantastic. There are great, it's a great directed film. It's a beautiful looking film. And then just overall, I mean, it looks incredible. It sounds incredible. The music, every time I see the opening crawl, my eyes well up with that score. And just the sight of Star Wars. It's just, it's beautiful. It really is. And I don't care saying that I well up every time I see it. It's beautiful. And it touches a special place in my heart. But anyway, through the main review. First thing, opening space battle, absolutely awesome. I absolutely loved it. The space battle was fantastic. It was intense. It was, you were gripping your chair trying to look at it. It's great. Absolutely fantastic. Like I said, I'm going to try and not do bit by bit of the film, like plot points as much as possible. I'm going to, obviously there's spoilers and I'm going to talk about plot, but not bit by bit what happened. I'm going to kind of go in some bit of an order, but I'm just going to go about talking points mainly. Now, let's talk about when Luke meets Rey for the first time. When Rey actually hands him back his original lightsaber, Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber that was given to him by Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's looking at his hands and he chucks it behind him. And it's a shocking moment. You're like, what the heck? Why is Luke like that? And we come to find out that Luke is actually kind of a hermit. And he's actually he just wants to be left alone. He considers himself a failure for what happened with Kylo Ren. Ben Solo becoming Kylo Ren. And he just wants to be cut out from the world. He left the world and wants to just live on this planet until he dies. He just doesn't want to deal with any of it. And it's sad really that you see that his failure and what his actions caused crushed him so deeply that he just wants to shut himself out rather, and just not be a part of it. It's kind of sad that's how he sees what he's done. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people don't like that bright optimism that was once in the young Luke Skywalker is gone. Well, I actually didn't mind it. I thought it was a great, the right progression for Luke Skywalker. I mean, with age, you start to look at the world a lot more, not as brightly as you once did as a young man. You see the world more cynically. And I could see that coming out of Luke. I mean, he went through a very, hard existence. He had it wasn't easy for him. Becoming a Jedi and fighting his father, who eventually died, and it wasn't exactly easy. And then for him to be put in a position where, and even Yoda says in Return of the Jedi, he's like, "You are the last Jedi. You have to be the light." And he decided to train more Jedi, and he failed. All that pressure, everything was on him, and he failed. And it's all because of him that Kylo Ren took over and all this happened. So yeah, I mean, if that happened to you, I'd be extremely upset and extremely depressed and say, I failed. What could I possibly do? I don't think I can fix this. I've royally failed, and even if I succeeded, I would just fail again. And it's sad. It's sad that you see Luke like that, and I think it's appropriate that I felt for Luke in this film, that he's just seen that I failed, and it's time for the Jedi to end because it's a dying religion. The Jedi have nothing but. If you look at the history of Jedi, they are just failures. He talks about that a little later in the film. The Jedi have just, when they were at the height of their power, they didn't even see the Sith were rising, and they took over the Jedi. The Jedi religion is filled with failure, and that's why he wants the Jedi to end. And he even talks about how you don't the Force isn't some power that Jedi possess. It's between all living things, and I think that's important that he just discusses that the Force still will live on past him and past everyone else. The Force will always exist. But again, you see that failure in him, and we're gonna get a little bit more into that a little bit later. But again, that I perfectly accept Luke's character in this film, and I think it's perfectly fine. I could see where people might not agree with it, but I like it, and I think it's done well. And I will get into that as a bigger argument at the end of this review. But anyway, next, we're looking at. I can't even believe I have to bring this up. Okay, so one complaint I got from one of my friends was that they didn't when we're watching scenes of Luke's life on the island, when he's catching fish, when he's just living out his regular day, just getting by, we see that there's this alien that's just leaning back, this really gross looking alien leaning back on a rock, and Luke goes up to it, and it has like an udder, like a cow, and he squeezes the udder to get milk, like a cow, and it's like green bluish milk. And it's a little gross, but yeah, it's like, this is what Luke has to do to get milk. And he's like, that's disgusting. I didn't want to see that. And I'm like, look, I think what they're trying to show is that Luke doesn't exactly have a luxurious life. He's not enjoying this. He's not enjoying having to, have gross green milk out every day. He's not like thoroughly enjoying having to catch fish and having to do all these things. But it's his choice because of how much he's just given up. And it just shows that he's willing to accept this difficult life than to try again and fail. So I kind of enjoy that. I think enjoy is a tough word, but I don't mind that scene. It doesn't bother me significantly as much as it does my one friend. But I don't know. Me personally, I thought the scene was perfectly fine, and especially if you're seeing how Luke lives his days out on this desolate planet, it's okay. So, speaking of aliens on the planet, or island rather, porgs. I'm just gonna get my quick thoughts on porgs. Porgs, look, I like little puffin things. They're like little puffin things. I think they're cute. They're fine. They don't bother people. I don't think they ruin the film or affect the film in any way. They're just there. They have entertainment value, I think, in some scenes. They're fine. I think they're perfectly fine. They're not annoying because they are like Jar Jar, and yet they don't shut the heck up, and they're trying to be funny and they're not. Or they're like the Ewoks, where they're little teddy bears, and yet they somehow take down the Empire. They're not annoying to either of those extremes. I think they're just cute little guys. They're just there, and they're just there, and they have some entertainment, so they're fine. One thing that's interesting, and I didn't even know this till I found this out later, was that the First Order actually is able to track the Resistance through light speed, which was never been able to be done before. They're like, how can they do that? That's impossible. Well, if you watch Rogue One, when they're going through trying to find the Death Star plans, they see that light speed tracking is one of the sorry. That light speed tracking is actually one of the plans that are in there. So that's actually a nice little callback. Then this sets up basically the main struggle or conflict of the film, I'd say. But aside from Kylo and Rey, obviously, which is that the Resistance has their last cruisers left. They're running out of fuel. If they jump through light speed again, they're just going to fall right behind them. The First Order is. So they're just going to keep at enough of a distance because they're a faster, lighter ship away from the big Imperial cruisers that they're not going to get hit and destroyed. So they're just going to keep this chase up until they can figure out what to do. So, in this case, actually a little bit before, I'll actually talk about that after. So, what happens is after getting attacked and all their X-wings and A-wings all get blown up, they're trying to figure out, well, what do we do next? So Finn is about to leave. He's about to get into an escape pod and leave because he wants to help find Rey and lead her to somewhere else. Excuse me. Because this is suicide. The ship's not going to last. He goes down to the escape pods and meets up with Rose. Rose is a kind of like an engineer. She works behind pipes. She does the gritty work. She's not an overly action hero. She's not on the front lines. She's like an engineer. And they meet up, and she believes that he's trying to leave and he's trying to escape. So she's about to bring him to the brig, but then they start talking and they come up with the idea to figure out how are they tracking them. And then they realize, well, if they're tracking us, they have to come from the lead ship. And if we shut it off from that ship, they can't send a signal to the other ships, and then we can get away for a short period of time and they can't find us. Which is cool. I think well, I don't think which is cool is a good point, but it makes sense. Fair enough in the realm of Star Wars. So they come together. They tell Poe this plan, and they realize that if they're going to do this, they're going to need a code breaker. Otherwise, they're not going to be able to get past the security. So they talk to Maz Kanata, the orange, brilliant alien from Force Awakens. And they figure out that there is a master codebreaker on a planet called Cantobite, which we'll get into in a little bit. And if they find him, he'll be able to get them past their security. So, before all that happens, during the First Order's original attack on the fleeting Resistance cruiser, Kylo Ren takes his ships out, and he doesn't blow up. He's about to destroy the bridge where Leia is, but then he takes his finger off the trigger, realizing that his mom's there. And yet he was powerful enough to kill his father, but he couldn't do it to his mother. But unbeknownst to him, the TIE fighters right beside him blow the bridge up anyway, and out goes Leia into the vacuum of space. And everyone, especially me in the theater, is like, that's how they're gonna kill her, because because she's dead. Carrie Fisher passed away. But no, they zoom in on her, and she starts twitching her hands, and she's coming alive, and we're like, what? How's she gonna? And then she uses the Force to bring herself back to the ship and get inside where she can breathe. And that's another scene where a lot of people don't like that. And I'll actually talk about there's a lot of parts of this that people don't like. So first of all, we're going to talk about Leia. A lot of people find it goofy looking. Leia's like Mary Poppins. She's like Superman. She's just floating through space. She can fly now. She uses the Force, blah, blah, blah. It's dumb. I don't mind it. I can see where people are like, it looks goofy, but I don't know how you can make that not look goofy. She's just floating through space, but she has her hand outstretched much like someone would use the Force. That's okay. Why is it like the Force can do many different things? I mean, in episode 1, we see Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan sprint at light speed, almost like using the Force. Like, why can't she use the Force to propel herself? If the Force allows you to, if it is that connection through all living things and allows you to be able to lift things and move things, why can't it help you create the space around you to propel yourself? Or even not even propel yourself, just find something to attach to. Like if there's a door, and the door's not going to move, you can bring yourself to it then. Why is that not a possible thing? It's the Force. Of course it can do that. I think it makes perfect sense. I can understand where people are like, it looks goofy, it looks dumb. I can perfectly understand that, but to say it doesn't make sense as a Force ability, I find that crazy. I think it's perfectly okay. Now, talking back to the chase scene where the Resistance is low on fuel and they're running out of options, and they're just trying to get away from the First Order, but they can't. They're just trying to keep out of range and keep going. A lot of people find that it's a slow chase and it's kind of boring. It's nothing interesting. Well, I don't mind it because, again, all of the Resistance is left on this fleet. It's all on that cruiser. That's all they have left. They don't have the little X-Wings and everything. So they are all on that, and it's not going to go fast. They can't go fast. So they're just going to just keep a distance as much as they can. And it's much akin to like a naval battle, where a smaller cruiser will try and drift away, but the bigger galleons are trying to fire at it, but they can't reach it. It's just that's kind of like a slow chase, much like in an old like an old naval war would have been fought, or even today's naval wars rather. So again, I don't mind it because again, it's just a version of war, but now it's in space. I think it's perfectly okay. I mean, if the main battles are basically sword fighting, but they're lightsabers, so that makes it okay. Well, why can't it be the cruiser fleeing away be like a naval battle, but they're in space, which makes it more interesting, and they're using laser cannons. But it's lame. I think it's fine. I actually like it. I think it puts a time constraint on everything. It makes everything have a deadline, and it makes it intense. They have to get this done by this time. I like time constraints. I think it makes things interesting. So I kind of can understand where it's like, it's slow, but I'm like, I don't mind it. I think it's perfectly fine. I think it's actually pretty interesting in that it puts a time constraint. I like time constraints in films. So I didn't mind it. I can see where people are like, it's slow, but again, I think it's akin to, I liken it to a naval battle, and I like it. So anyway, back to the original plan, which is they're trying to get to Canto Bight. So let's talk about Canto Bight. Canto Bight is a planet where basically, at least in this one area, a bunch of rich people have like a casino. So a lot of people don't like the scenes on Canto Bight for a number of reasons, and I'm going to discuss them. One is that the casino area that they're in is too much like an Earth casino. It feels like Earth. It doesn't feel otherworldly like the Mos Eisley bar does. It feels different in the bar. It's obviously a bar, but it feels different enough. This, you see roulette tables, you see dice, you see slot machine-esque machines. They all are different, but not different enough. So I can respect that. And you know what? I feel that as well, in that it's not otherworldly enough. Even when they escape Canto Bight on the they're not horses, but imagine like a horse track. They have these aliens that kind of are like, I want to say like lemurs that run like, they don't have hooves. They have like paws. So I want to say they run almost like a lion or a panther would. So they run like that, and they have like long fox ears and like cute faces. So they're just these creatures, and they treat them like horses at a horse track. So they whip them. You know, they don't treat them very well. It's kind of sad. And you see like the little stable boys and girls all get treated really poorly. And there's that story about how these rich people that are benefiting off of war and all that, they're in command of, and they're oppressing these little people and these animals. So there's that storyline. But again, it's that this, even let me get back to what I was originally talking about, was then when they're they're escaping on these creatures, they're running through a city that almost reminds me of like an Italian villa or something. Like it looks like there's like cobblestone. They're like kind of brick-esque buildings, not brick, but I don't know I'm not good with construction terms, so I'm probably terribly wrong. But if you see it, it looks like a kind of an area you could see anywhere, like in Europe. And so I can respect people saying it's too much like Earth, and I can agree with that, and I can also agree with people not liking that part of the film, that it slows it down. It seems out of place. It's just off. It's not Star Warsian. I can, again, totally respect it. I don't mind the scenes because they lead to somewhere important. They are necessary, and they're not that bad. When I rewatched the film again, the scenes were a lot shorter than I remember them being. I remember seeing the first one. I'm like, yeah, they spent a lot of time on that casino place. But then once they, once they really do everything at the casino and break out, it's not that long. At least it didn't feel long to me this time around. But overall, I can understand where people say it slows down. It doesn't feel like Star Wars. It feels too much like Earth. Totally understand that, and I respect that. I'm just saying that I can ignore that because it leads somewhere important. It's necessary to the film, and it's not that bad. It just is. It's just a part of the film that's not as interesting as what Luke and Rey are doing. So I can respect that, but it doesn't bother me. Next, we'll start talking about. I'm trying to get my notes here. Let's talk about Rey and Kylo. Now, Rey and Kylo throughout this film seem to have a sort of forced connection. They can see each other, but they're not in the same room. Like Kylo is off on Snoke's ship while Rey is on the planet where Luke is on, but they can see each other, but they don't really see their surroundings too much. But they talk, and they start to learn a little bit more about each other, and they're really cool scenes. And I think it's a power that we've not seen before, but I think, again, it works. I think it works just fine. And we start to learn a little bit about Rey, in that, and Kylo actually brings this up. He's like, Rey's saying, how could you kill someone that loved you and cared for you like your father? And Kylo's like, because it's part of my past. I want to let the past go. I want to be my own person. I want to be looking towards the future. And he's just like, kill the past if you have to. And he's telling Rey, you just keep looking for parental figures because you know who your parents were. They didn't care about you. You're looking for father figures in Han Solo and looking for a father in Luke Skywalker when they're not going to be there. You only have yourself to look after, or you can look to me and I can help you. So they start to have kind of a bond going. Where Rey's believing that she can maybe turn Kylo, and Kylo believes maybe he can turn Rey. So it's a nice little area in the film where they start to believe that they can turn each other. They both have their own agenda. Let's talk about Luke teaching Rey the ways of the Force, and we learn about what the Force really is. In that the Jedi is a religion about learning about the Force. So, and the Force isn't some power that the Jedi or Sith have. It's not some power of lifting rocks or moving things like Luke says. It's a connection between all living things. It is life, it is death, it is chaos, it is peace. It is all of these things. This Force connects all of us. It is part of everyone. It's inside you, it's inside me, it's inside everybody. It's not just something, it's not a power for the Jedi to wield. It is a force that connects all living things. And that I like that explanation of the Force. I think it's awesome. Personally, I think it's just that's what life is. I think that's everything is. And I think that I think you can almost argue there is a force in life, and that everything is connected. It's all a loop. And I like it. I think it's a cool explanation. But yeah, and then Rey learns that Luke has actually shut himself away from the Force when she's learning all this. She looks back and she's like, when I was looking throughout the entire island, I didn't see you. You shut yourself away from the Force. And Luke is actually starting to fear because Rey did not hesitate to go into the dark part of the island, to go down this deep hole that is the darkness that represents the darkness, and he's fearing that she may turn, and she's too powerful, and he has to step away from her and go away. And Luke actually brings up a good point in a later lesson, in that he talks about how, oh my God, I completely forgot this. Okay, so Luke begins teaching Rey, but he, as you know, that he originally did not want to. What happens is eventually Luke finds his way onto the Falcon. He sneaks on. He doesn't want anyone to know he's going on there. He grabs the dice that Han won the Falcon with when he beat Lando in that dice game. And he sits down, and R2 turns on. He's like, "Oh my God, buddy, what's up?" And they reconnect, and he's like, "But listen, R2, nothing can make me change my mind. I'm not leaving this island. I can't change what I believe, that the Jedi have to end." And R2 turns on Leia's message to Obi-Wan Kenobi in A New Hope. And even Luke says, "That's a cheap move." And I start to well up. I'm like, oh my God, this is beautiful. And it's a great scene. It is fantastic. Like, applause for that scene alone. It is great. But anyway, that wakes him up almost, and he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna teach you lessons, Rey, but I'm gonna teach you 3 lessons, and then then you'll understand why the Jedi must end." And then that's the second lesson when he's talking about is that the Jedi at the height of their ability failed, and the Sith overtook them. And she's even starting to tell him that you are Luke Skywalker. You're a legend. You can do these things. And he's like, "Yeah, I was a legend that let Ben Solo turn to the dark side. My own nephew. Yeah, a legend. And you start to understand that, yeah, you see that the failure has overtaken Luke, and it has shook him terribly, and it's really sad. And he's even saying, he's like, look, what do you want me to do? He's like, do you want me to become? Do you think I'm just gonna go to the Resistance, join them, and then I'm gonna take down the whole First Order with a laser sword? I can't just do this. He's just surrounding himself by the thoughts of failure, and I think it's an interesting character development for Luke, that his one failure in what he did with handling Ben Solo's training has messed him up completely. The failure has overtaken his perception of things, and look, failure does that to some people, and I think Luke, especially with all the pressure he was under, that failure crippled him, and I think that's something anyone can relate to. Just because, I mean, I know Luke is the quintessential hero of Star Wars, and he's supposed to be the ever true good guy, and he's supposed to fight evil to the end. But at the end of the day, people are people. Luke has flaws. Luke is just like anyone else. Everyone has a flaw. Everyone has their weaknesses, and Luke unfortunately succumbed to his weakness, and yet he under all that pressure he failed, and he blames himself. I think that's perfectly normal because it brings him down to a human level. And I think we all need to have someone that we can relate to, and I relate to him being able to fail. That's why I really like Luke's character in this film. And I understand that what people are looking for in Luke Skywalker in this movie is not there. But I feel like how they handled Luke is perfectly fine, and not only is it perfectly fine, it is excellent. On how they handle it. Just because it's not what you wanted, and it's not hitting all your wish list items, doesn't mean that what's presented in front of you is done well. Because it is. It's done extremely well, and it's done so well that I like it a lot. Just because, Luke isn't, he's just like, yeah, I'm going to train you, Rey. We're going to go fight the First Order. And he's got his green lightsaber, and he's going to have this big battle with Kylo Ren. Just because that's not there doesn't mean it's done well. It's not done well how they handle Luke. It's still done incredibly well. It's just not what you expected. And that's okay. It challenges your perception. Films can challenge how you see things. That's perfectly okay. And so I don't, just because, okay, here's how I'm going to say it. If you didn't like how Luke is portrayed in this film simply because he doesn't do the things you want him to, I think that's foolish. And I think that's a little unfair to the film. But if you say how he is portrayed in this film, not that it doesn't match up to what your expectations were, but that it's not handled well, then that's an argument that you can have. But I think just because it doesn't meet your wish list doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not what you wanted. And I think that's okay to not always get what you want and not always get what you expect. You should be surprised when you go see any film. Anyway, that's more of the argument I'm going to have at the end of this, but that's just a little quick. I'm going off. But anyway, let's get back to this. So Rey physically goes down into that dark hole on the island, and she finds that there's her reflection there. And she looks into it, and she realizes there's just endless amounts of her copies of herself just in front of her doing the same thing that she does only like milliseconds after. And it just goes on for forever and ever and ever and ever. But she's saying there's something at the end. And at the end, she is looking at a reflection. And she's saying, show me my parents. And you see two shadowy figures start to come up. And then they form into one. And then you see the reveal is herself. Now, I like this scene. And I might be looking too far into it. But I think what it really means is that she doesn't care who her parents are in terms of what their names are, what jobs they had. She wants to find out who they are, and that will make her understand who she is. Like if the reveal was, and I'm gonna get into this later, that Luke and some girl from Tatooine was her parents, that'll make her understand my father was a Jedi. I must be a Jedi, and she's hoping that'll give her answers to who she is. But the fact is that won't give her the answers who she is. She is who she is. She's her own person. Your parents aren't who you are. And that's the lesson I get from it, and I like that. I think that I think she's really looking to find out who she is, not who her parents' names were and what they and what they did for a living. She wants to know who they are, and that'll give her an answer to who she might become and who she is. And that's not the answer that she wants, because she is who she is. And I like that. I think that's a great lesson to be learned from that. I like it a lot, and I think that's what the message is. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I interpret it as, and I like that a lot. Anyway, so she goes into that, and she starts to talk to Kylo a little bit more, and she talks about that, and Kylo tells her about what happened the night that Kylo turned evil, basically. It was, from his point of view, he awoke to his uncle with the lightsaber in hand towering over him, and he assumed that I became too powerful and he's going to strike me down because he can be the only powerful one in the universe. When in actuality, and Luke tells Rey this, what happened was, while training at his new Jedi temple with his new students, he noticed that Ben was showing signs of turning to the dark side. So he went into his room, and he looked into his mind, and he just saw all the evil that could come out of him and all the darkness that could come to fruition. And he flicked his lightsaber on for a second, thinking, I can end this. But then as soon as he had that thought, it went away, and he was just a man standing there ashamed of himself that he almost just killed his killed his nephew. And then while still holding that lit lightsaber and staring down his nephew Ben wakes up and is thinking his uncle's gonna kill him. So he defends himself. He brings the room down. The roof comes crashing down, and Luke tells us that he killed a lot of his students, but he also took some on to join him, which again is another reference to the Knights of Ren, which was referenced briefly again in Force Awakens, and it's referenced briefly again here. Some people didn't like that the Knights of Ren were not here whatsoever, but I think that it's all leading to Episode 9 having the Knights of Ren and having that be the big menace to take down and fight. I think that they're building up the mystique of the Knights of Ren, and as long as it leads to something in Episode 9, I'm totally okay with it. I think it's going to be awesome. I'm really thinking that the Knights of Ren are going to play a huge part, and it's going to be awesome. I don't think they needed to be in Episode 8. The Knights of Ren sound intimidating. It's a bunch of rogue Jedi. It's, like, say 5. I forget. I think there is an exact number, but let's say 5, including Kylo, that are just powerful and ready to take control of the universe. I think that's awesome. I don't think that needs to be just in 8. I want to see that in 9. Let's see what goes on, but that's just me. But another problem, that was one problem that someone brought up to me about they didn't like that the Knights of Ren were there. But I think that's exactly, I think it's all lean to 9. I think that's the big climax, is facing the Knights of Ren. Now, another problem people had with Luke acting this way was, at least not a lot of people, but what I've been told, is that they didn't like that Luke changed from someone who saw conflict in Vader and was able to turn him to someone that feared that just, his nephew was going to turn evil. I think that's, of course he would. He saw what Vader at the height of his power was able to do, and that was his father. And he's realizing that if he could possibly create the next Vader, the next person to rule over the galaxy, he had all those fears rush to his head, all the violence and destruction and death that Vader brought brought in his wake, that could come from happen right under Luke Skywalker's nose, much like the Sith took over the Jedi Order at the height of their superiority. That he had all those fears. He's like, Vader and the Sith took over when the Jedi were at their top. I'm one man teaching a group of students, and my nephew could become that Vader again. He could be the next Vader. He can destroy everything I built. So yes, of course all those thoughts would rush through his head, and he would have all that fear and click his lightsaber on for a quick second, but then realizing, wait a minute, no, what am I doing? This is my nephew. I have to take care of him. I can't just give up on him like this. Of course you'd have that quick instinct, having all those fears. Why wouldn't you? And then it goes away, and then you realize that you messed up. Much like Luke realizes he messed up, and he felt ashamed of himself. He failed his nephew. Of course, that makes perfect sense, at least to me. If you don't get it, okay, but that makes perfect sense to me, and I think it's explained just fine. So, Rey goes off to find Kylo because she senses conflict within him, and she thinks that she can turn him. So, after she goes off, Luke is fed up. He's angry. He's going to burn the tree that houses the ancient sacred Jedi texts. And right before he's about to do it, we see a very familiar pet of green ears. And Ghost Yoda shows up, and it's Puppet Yoda, and it's awesome. Yoda is fantastic. He's like, I'm going to burn it. But then Luke, he can't do it. He can't do it because he's as much as he thinks the Jedi should end, he can't bring himself to be the one to just hit the trigger and end it. He just wants it to end out like a fleeting candle, not so much be the one to burn it down. While Yoda burns it down by Ghost Yoda uses lightning to strike the tree and it engulfs in flames, and Luke's like, the text though, the sacred Jedi text, and Yoda's like, read them, have you? Page turners they were not. And I'm just like, damn, Yoda, you're friggin' awesome, man. Yoda is great. He has a great scene with Luke, and he's telling Luke, you're still someone who's looking towards the horizon, not what's right in front of you. And he tells him a fantastic lesson, and I think that's something that this film has a lot of, and it's great lessons to be learned. And it's that failure is life's greatest teacher. Yes, you should teach someone your strengths and what you can achieve and what these great things that you can do, and it's important to learn all these things. But you're gonna fail in life, and it's important to learn from your failures, and evolve because of them. And you tell these failures to your students if you are a teacher, and they can learn from your failures as well. Failure is important in life just as much as success. And I think that's a great thing to learn in this film. And it's a fantastic lesson that Yoda tells Luke, especially that's something that Luke needs to hear right now. And that he's so upset with all his failures, but then Yoda's like, yeah, everyone fails. And it's important that it's not so much how you failed, but it's about what you do with it. And Luke realizes that as much as he has failed, he has the ability to learn from it and do great, and to go past his failures. And that's important. That's fantastic. I really love that lesson. And I think it's fantastic for Luke to hear. It's perfect in this film. It's great. That's a fantastic scene with him with Luke and Yoda. And it's great. And I think it brings full circle Luke's arc of failure. And he still is that young boy from Tatooine in his heart, really, where when he's training in Dagobah, he doesn't think he can lift the X-Wing up. He gives up. But it takes that he failed at doing that, and Yoda shows him that he can do it. It's all full circle. It's all the same thing. And people saying that it's not Luke, that's still Luke. Luke is still a young man that not young man, but he still has that mindset that he's always had. You know, just because people have this idea that he's always optimistic and always fighting evil. Go watch him. Go back and watch the Dagobah scenes. He disobeys Yoda. He doesn't believe in him all the time. He fails, and he kind of just says, "I'll never learn," even though he wants to learn. Failure can affect everybody, and you see it has affected Luke in the past, much like it has now. I think that's perfectly fine. But anyway, we have more to talk about, so I'm going to keep going. So Snoke finally meets up with Rey. Rey lands on the on Snoke's ship, and Kylo cuffs her and brings her to Rey. And he explains that he was the one who actually was bridging their minds. That that they didn't have a connection just organically. It's something too powerful. He was the one that was doing it for them. And so it's not so much that they have that connection, it's that it was forced into them, and their feelings that they're going to turn for each other, that was manufactured by Snoke. And as Snoke is torturing Rey, trying to find out where Luke Skywalker is, sorry, while he's doing that, and he's telling Rey, after he learns the information, he tells Kylo to kill Rey. And what happens is, while Snoke is talking about, yes, you're going to turn your lightsaber and destroy your greatest ally, while he's doing that, the Rey's lightsaber, Luke's really, and Anakin's really, is sitting right next to him. And as Kylo holds his own lightsaber. He's actually using the Force to turn it on Snoke and kill him while Snoke wasn't even looking. And he slices him in half, and he just dies. And they start to fight the Praetorian Guards, which, before I get into the death of Snoke, really, that scene is awesome. It is awesome. It is an awesome fight scene between Kylo and Rey versus the Praetorian Guards. It is great scene. So obviously the death of Snoke brings up a lot of questions. I know going into after The Force Awakens, people had a lot of different theories. I remember talking to my friends. They're like, oh, could it be Mace Windu? Could it be Jar Jar Binks? Could it be Palpatine? Who could it be? Could it be Plagueis? They're going through all these different theories. And yeah, I mean, if you're going through all those theories and you're expecting something big and for him to just die with no backstory, yeah, you're going to feel let down because you had all these expectations and they weren't met, or they weren't the answers you were looking for. And I told this when someone was like, oh, but he's just some guy. I was like, all right, go back to Return of the Jedi. Who was the Emperor? He was just some guy. But no, he was just the evil big bad guy that was training Darth Vader. That's what Snoke was. He was the evil big bad guy that killed Kylo, that trained Kylo Ren. And Kylo Ren turned on him because he is more powerful than the Emperor. Even when you look at Darth Vader talking to Luke, Darth Vader wants to destroy his master. He's saying, Luke, join me and we'll destroy the Emperor. You can destroy him. While Kylo is saying, screw that, I'm going to destroy Snoke. I'm the master here. I'm the leader. I don't need anyone else. I am done with my training. I am better than him. I am better than all of you. So, yeah, it's a shocking death. It makes you, it comes almost out of nowhere. You're like, what? Yeah, I mean, if you were expecting some answer into Snoke's backstory, then yeah, you didn't get it. But I think what the scene was more so important for was the fact that showing that Kylo is now in charge. He doesn't have a master, and he is completely unbridled. He is released from his shackles. He is now the man in control of his own destiny, and he is going to do what he wants. I like that. I like that he's just now he is the unquestioned evildoer in the universe, and there's no one above him. I think that's awesome. I think I really liked the bold choice to kill Snoke right there. Came out of nowhere, and I liked it. I liked being surprised. You should be surprised going to a movie. You know what I mean? I liked it. Someone also was talking about, someone just talked to me about, Kylo's training is just dropped. He was being trained. He was basically done. I mean, he was trained for a while under Luke, and then he was trained in the dark side for who knows how many years under Snoke, and he even said you have to complete your training by killing Han Solo in Force Awakens. He's done with his training. He doesn't need to train anymore. Now he's the master. He's killed his own master. He is no longer the learner. He is the master. So it's perfectly fine for him to kill Snoke here. I think it's bold, challenging. I like it. I like it a lot. I mean, as much as it kind of could feel anticlimactic, I think it's surprising, and it comes out of nowhere. So I like it. I don't care. I don't care what people say. I like it a lot. Then, after the defeat the Praetorian Guards, Rey tries to turn Kylo, but as Kylo is realizing that his master is dead, he's like, let's start over. Let the Jedi die. Let the Sith die. Let the Rebellion die. Let the First Order die. You and I will start over, and we can start with a clean slate. Kill the past. We can be the future. And Rey's saying, no, come on, we have to save the Resistance. And during this confrontation, I kind of was thinking that Kylo was almost like a nihilist, like he doesn't care. I don't care about anything. It's just me. That's more of a narcissist than a nihilist, but I kept thinking nihilist for some reason. I kept thinking back to The Big Lebowski, like Kylo's gonna come in with the marmot and just throw it into like Luke Skywalker's like bathtub. Oh my God! Someone make that fan art. I feel like that'd be fantastic. Kylo Ren dressed up like the nihilist from Big Lebowski and throws a marmot into Luke Skywalker dressed up like the dude's bathtub. I want that. That is fantastic. But yeah, so that's great. But anyway, so in this conflict that Rey and Kylo are having. They're both trying to turn each other, but Rey's learning that Kylo's only focused on himself and he has his own vision. There is no conflict inside him, not anymore. And Rey is set on her sights too. She wants to be part of the Resistance. She wants to stop the First Order. The First Order is evil. So we find out then Kylo tells Rey who her parents are, and Rey's kind of always known, but she kind of just left it out, and we find out that they're nobody. They were just junkers who just sold her for money, and they just are dead somewhere in a shallow grave. Now, again, same thing with Snoke. A lot of people had a lot of theories. Is she Luke's kid? Is she Obi-Wan's daughter? There were all these different theories, and again, none of these fans' wish lists were granted. All these concepts and ideas were just left to go away. So again, I kind of like that she's from no one special, because again, she'll be not only her own person, but also it shows that you don't have to have a important bloodline to do the right thing or be someone special. You can come from anywhere. You can be anybody. And it just takes the right person to do great things. You don't have to come from, a Skywalker or Kenobi bloodline. You can be your own person and achieve great things. You don't have to come from anyone special. It's how you handle your life. Not what your legacy is, but who you are. Or not so much your legacy, but your I guess your family's legacy. It's not your family's legacy. It's about your legacy, what you create out of your life. So again, I like it. I don't mind that her parents are nobodies. I understand where people would be upset because that's not what they wanted. But again, it shouldn't be what you wanted to see. It's how the film handles what you are given. And the film handles it fairly well. Just because it's not what you expected or wanted doesn't mean it's bad. It's just not what you expected. And that's fine. That's perfectly fine. Also, someone was saying that, well, if Rey and Kylo aren't related, how do they have this connection? Again, easy. Snoke was the one bridging their minds. He was doing that. He was the one that was like the puppeteer, like holding their strings together and bringing them together. That wasn't, and the conflict in Kylo was manufactured to bring Rey to him and to attempt to kill Rey and find Luke Skywalker. So yeah, it's not that they're related, that they have that connection. It's just Snoke manufactured it. And I know people say, well, it was after the film they kind of did that towards the end. Well, yeah, it still lingered because it's still going to be there a little bit because Snoke did that. It takes a lot of power. It's still probably going to be there for kind of. So yeah, I find it perfectly explainable. So after this reveal, Rey and Kylo force fight over the Skywalker lightsaber. Anakin is passed down to Luke, then found to Rey, and it breaks in half. And it's destroyed. And real quick, just a side note, Rey has both halves at the end of the film, but if I'm being completely honest, I want to see Rey in Episode 9 with a Darth Maul-esque lightsaber, because she uses that metal rod all the time, and I know she's been using Luke's for forever, but I want to see her with a Darth Maul-esque lightsaber. I think that would be so cool. It'd be different. It'd be a nice callback. And it would make her stand out. I think it would be great. I think she should have her own lightsaber. I don't want to see her fix it. If she's going to fix it, I want her to modify it. I want that to be one half and she has the other half, and it's a dual-wielding lightsaber. I want that. I really, 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 really want that. I think it'll be awesome. If not, okay, but I think it'd be cool. So, keep going. While all this is going on, the First Order what has happened is Leia has awakened. Poe, Rose, and Finn's plan to disable the tracker has failed, but Leia and Admiral Holdo, who has taken over for Leia, have had a plan the entire time, which was to fuel up all their escape ships and just drift off while they're still focusing on the big cruiser, and they'll never notice. However, when Rose, Finn, and the Codebreaker get captured, the Codebreaker sells out Finn and Rose, and he to spare his life and give him money. he tells them that, hey, their plan is to just escape while you're not looking. So they start firing on these ships, and they're starting to go down like flies. And so what happens is Holdo is still on the cruiser ship. She refuses to leave. She says someone has to control the ship, and Leia misses her. They're obviously really close friends. Holdo turns the ship around. And as soon as she starts to turn around, and I'm like, oh my God. She hits light speed and goes kamikaze right through the First Order ships. And it is a huge explosion. Multiple ships go down, and there's just silence. You don't hear anything. And that is the most brilliant. It is absolutely brilliant. Not only is it fantastic that we've never seen this before, but the fact that they didn't put any music in is incredible. I loved it. It was such a brilliant choice. And then when it finally does, you're far away. And what I love is you're so far away. The camera is so far away from that explosion, but the sound is still so loud. And I think that's a smart choice because not only is it loud, but it's that far away that it's loud. It's just like, imagine if you were right there, how fucking loud that'd be. It'd be so awesome. And so that's why I think it's just brilliant directing, once again, by Rian Johnson there. That scene was fantastic. Meanwhile, while Finn and Rose are about to be executed by Captain Phasma, that explosion happens, and in the chaos they're able to get away, and Finn actually starts to fight Captain Phasma. So he's getting beat up pretty badly, but kind of like in a miraculous way, he gets the upper hand. He smashes her mask up, and you just see her eye just staring at it with all the hatred in the world. And as the ship starts to crumble, she falls into a pit of fire. And again, people have problems with that, and that it's just Phasma's just there, and she just dies. Nothing comes out of her. And again, not only I'm not 100% sure if she is dead, because she could, I mean, who knows? She maybe fell down a few levels, fell into a TIE fighter, and could have escaped or something. You know, I don't know if she's dead, and even if she is, she's just a top guy. You know, Grand Moff Tarkin kind of just died in the explosion of the Death Star. Boba Fett didn't have that great of a death. You know what I mean? All these characters don't have to have these fantastic, over-the-top, dramatic deaths. I mean, they're people again. People die. And again, I think it was a fine death. Finn overcame Phasma, his superior, and bested her. Not exactly bested her, but beat her. So it's okay that if that's her end, that's her end. So I think it's fine. But keep going. So the rebels eventually land on Crate, which is a salt planet. And so they get behind this big iron door, and they're trying to send a transmission out. Kylo Ren now is in control of the First Order as General Hux, the guy who's like the Grand Moff Tarkin of the First Order. He as he finds out that Supreme Leader Snoke is dead, I even like that there's this little bit that when he's seeing Snoke's body, Kylo Ren is still knocked out on the ground as Rey has gotten to the escape pod and left. He takes his coat back, and he's about to reach for his blaster and kill Kylo Ren, but Kylo Ren wakes up and he puts his hands back. So that shows that, I mean, you could see the tension that they don't like each other, but now you can see that it's to the point where they want to kill each other. And Kylo is torturing Hux. He's like, I'm now the Supreme Leader. I am in control. So Kylo takes control of the First Order's army now. And then when they're on this planet, I will say, I haven't talked a lot about Poe, but let me really quick talk about Poe Dameron. Poe has a fantastic character development in this film. He goes from, in the beginning of the film, being this hotshot where he's refusing orders. He's like, no, we can do it. We're going to shoot. We're going to take them down. And he even does that in his plan. He's like, no, we can't just escape and run away. We need to take them down now. We have to stand strong. We have a plan. We're going to do it he's the guy like, oh, I think I'm right. I know I'm right. But he finds out that he's wrong, and it's not always about taking out the guys today. It's about the long term. It's knowing when to shoot and when to escape and when to fight another day. And he learns this in this film. It is great, and you really see it when they follow them onto Crate. They have their walkers and even their blasting ram cannon. I forget the correct word. but they're going to break into the Resistance fortress. You even see that when they're trying to take out the cannon, he realizes we're not going to make it. We need to turn around. And Finn's saying, no, I can make it. He's like, Finn, it's not worth it. We're not going to make it. Just turn around. And again, you see that he's changed. Poe has changed as a character, and I liked it a lot. You can see that he's learned from his past mistakes and learns that you should look to the bigger picture, not just what's in front of you. Okay. It's funny saying that when Luke is learning that he's looking too into the horizon, not see what's in front of him. But I think it's more so the difference of to see the big picture rather than just the short term. There's a difference between long term and short term, and looking at everything but not seeing what's in front of you, and what's important is what's in front of you. There's a difference. But anyway, so Poe's character development is fantastic in this film. Now, Finn, he's refusing to listen to Poe, much like Poe in the beginning of the film. Finn is rushing headlong into the blasting ram cannon. And he's about to sacrifice himself. He's going to have his little skipper ship fly into the cannon and he's just going to die. He's going to sacrifice himself hoping to take out the cannon. What I do like about... Now, I will say, but Rose saves him. She crashes her ship into his so that he doesn't go and kill himself, and she crash lands and he crash lands, but they are alive. But there's things I hate. There's this thing I like and there's a thing I hate in the scene. One is that what's interesting about Finn is he kind of how you see him is that Finn is letting his hatred of the First Order overtake him. And much like Yoda says in episode 1, fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. And much like Finn, he's feared the First Order in Force Awakens, and he was angry about what they've done and how their actions are, and he's hated the First Order so much that he was willing to suffer and harm himself in order to save the Resistance. He was letting his hate and overtake him. And I kind of like that. I think it's cool because, again, it shows that he almost has too much hatred in his heart, much like a young Anakin once did, or kind of like Luke did a little bit in Empire. So I like it a lot. The problem is, if Finn also at the same time saying that if Finn were to sacrifice himself right there, I would have been okay with it. I would have said, well, Finn, I said, Finn, he fought really hard and he just wants to save the Resistance and he's willing to give his life for it. I kind of liked it. So I was kind of I'll be honest, I was a little bummed that Rose did that because I kind of thought that was appropriate for Finn to do that. Even though, like I said, I understand, I kind of like that he didn't end up doing it because he was letting his hate overtake him. And Rose... what happens is Rose saves him, and then when he goes over to Rose does have, some will say, a cheesy line. I personally liked it, that Rose said that she's like, I saved you. It's not about killing what you hate. It's about saving who you love. Which I thought, it's cheesy, but it's kind of true. The resistance and all that they do, it's not about killing the First Order. We need to end them. We need to destroy. It's more so that we're doing this because we're going to save people that we care about. And then I like the message, but again, I'm not 100% behind Finn, like the whole fake sacrifice. I kind of was okay if Finn was going to die there. I was ready. And then that brings us to a big not a big problem, but a big talking point is the Rose and Finn love story, because after Rose says that, she goes and kisses him, and Finn's like, what the heck? So Finn and Rose, their whole side adventure and everything. When I first watched it, I liked Rose. I liked seeing her and Finn interact. I thought that they were okay together. When she kissed him, I was really surprised. I was like, oh, all right, shit. But then I'm thinking forward. I'm like, wait, but he kind of likes Rey. Is this gonna be a thing? Is this gonna be a love triangle now? So I'm like, what? I was really confused with that. I don't know where it's going. If it leads somewhere, I'd be okay with it. But right now, it's not in a place where I like it. Maybe it's just somewhere that, maybe it's just a thing where Rose is just, she's seeing that something that she's not, and Finn just has to just explain that to her. I don't know. I mean, you could see at the beginning of the film that Rose is overexcited with Finn, and she's just, she doesn't really know how to interact with him. She's just like, wow, you're this big big hero. And so I guess she kind of just got too far in her head about what that was. So I mean, maybe she has an interesting arc in 9, but as much as I did like Rose's first time around, I didn't like her as much as a character in the second viewing. I just kind of felt like she was just kind of there. She didn't really bring a whole lot. So yeah, I have to say that I wasn't as fond of Rose as I was the second viewing. That doesn't mean she's a bad character, but I just don't think she's a strong and interesting enough character compared to like Poe and Rey and Luke and Leia and all them. I don't know. I'm not 100% behind her yet. Maybe in 9 I'll like her a lot more. Maybe she'll do something, but she didn't capture me, and she wasn't the strongest point of the film. And the whole love thing with Finn, it wasn't that great. And then even Finn, I mean, I love John Boyega. John Boyega does a great job. He's very charismatic. He's fun, but I'm not sure where Finn's going. I mean, in Force Awakens, he seemed like he has a purpose. He's trying to fight the First Order, and he's even doing stuff in this one. But I don't know. I want to know where they're going with Finn. I feel like we didn't really, in terms of character development, Rey changed a lot, Kylo changed a lot, Poe changed a lot. Finn didn't really seem to evolve that much. So I mean, I'm curious to see where they go with Finn. But I mean, yeah, in this film, Finn and Rose weren't the strong point of this film. But that doesn't mean it was bad. It's just it was rather weak compared to the rest of the film. So now the blast cannon breaks down the big shield door that they had. That was their only way in and out. The Resistance is getting no help. No allies are picking up the call. And Luke shows up. And Luke talks to Leia. And he's all shaven. He has his hair cut. He looks like a young man again. Younger man, rather. He's talking to Leia. And they have this great interaction. It's a really nice scene. He gives her the dice. He winks at C-3PO, which was awesome. It was great. And then he walks out, staring down the First Order with a laser sword, much like he said it wouldn't do anything. And Kylo's like, fire all weapons on that man! And they fire everything. And after the dust clears and everything, Luke is still standing there. He just brushes his shoulder. And I was like, that is amazing. Then Kylo goes down to meet Luke, and they face off. And Luke lights his lightsaber, the blue lightsaber, much that we just saw explode. So what happened there? And we start to see them fight, and Luke is dodging every single thrust and slash from Kylo, and Kylo eventually goes to cut him down, and then he slices him, or at least he thinks he does, and he turns around, and Luke's still standing there unharmed. And then he realizes that Luke isn't actually there. He is projecting himself, much like Snoke was able to bridge the minds of Kylo and Rey. He is projecting himself there. He's projecting himself on Crate while he is back on his original island, and it's awesome. I think it was such a cool reveal. And you see, what is fantastic directing is you don't see any, like, on the planet when someone walks, there's this white, like, I don't think that's the actual salt, but I think it's like some white powder on top, and then underneath there's this red surface, which I believe is the actual salt, and that comes up every time you make a footprint. And Luke doesn't leave any footprints, but Kylo does. And not only that, but it's the blue lightsaber that Luke is using, not his green one from Return of the Jedi. Again, really cool details, fantastic directing once again. Now, I really loved that reveal. I really loved it. I thought it was great. It was showing off that Luke is so powerful with the Force that he's able to do that. Not only is he able to project himself as a younger man, so that he doesn't look all grizzled to Leia, and he doesn't like show off that how he's changed throughout the years, and he shows how they remember him. But he's able to do all that. That must take so much power and focus and energy in the Force. But I know I have people who believe that, well, I wanted to see a duel where Luke shows off his abilities, his powers, where how he's so great with the lightsaber and everything. And I disagree. I think not only is it a great showing of his powers that he's able to use the Force that strongly that he projects himself on a different planet, all these light galaxies away. And he's able to interact and see everything and talk to everything so clearly. I think that's incredible. That's such a powerful use of the Force. So powerful that it actually, it's so powerful that it actually uses up all of his energy, and he actually goes on later to die and give himself up to the Force, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But people want to see him do his lightsaber battles. Honestly, if you think back to Empire, and if you think back to the original trilogy, Luke was not always the best with the lightsaber. I mean, you see him in Empire, he gets beaten pretty easily by Vader, and in Return of the Jedi, the only reason he beats down his father is because he gives in to the dark side, and he lets his hatred overtake him. So that's just not so much his lightsaber power. So I think it's actually more impressive showing off how powerful he's come with the Force. Because the Force is stronger than any lightsaber really is. I mean, Yoda is so powerful that he doesn't even need a lightsaber. Palpatine is so powerful he doesn't even need a lightsaber. That's when you know that a Jedi has really become one with the Force and is strong and powerful after so many years of learning. He's so strong with it, he's able to do that with the Force. That is incredibly impressive, and I think that's an excellent showing of his power. So that's why I love this finale. I think it's great. That's just me. But yes, once again, Luke does give himself up to the Force. What I love is the theme from New Hope plays, and he looks out. There is only one sun on his planet, but when he's looking at it, the way the clouds are hitting and the way it's reflecting, it looks like there's two suns there, much like on Tatooine when he was that young farm boy. And as he stands there, tired and just after using up all that energy, he goes right away and his cloak comes down, much like Yoda and much like Obi-Wan before him. It was touching, beautiful, it was powerful. Now, the one thing, of course, everyone will say is, well, when he was fighting Kylo, he said, "See you around, kid." So everyone's like, oh, he's going to live. But the Force Ghost, he's going to come back as a Force Ghost, I'm telling you, and it's going to be fantastic. And he said, I will always be with you, much like your father is. So even and that doesn't mean Han's a Force Ghost, but that means Han's spirit is always going to be with Kylo. It's always going to be haunting him. It's always going to be with him, much like Luke's is. Luke will always be with him. I mean, it'll always follow him wherever he goes. And Leia and the rest of the rebels, what's left of them, there's not many. They all sneak onto the Falcon that Chewie and Rey got back, and then they escape off the crate with the rest of the rebels, and there's not many left. There's a couple handfuls, and Rey talks to Leia about she felt that Luke is gone, but he didn't go out in pain or suffering. He went out at peace, and he's now one with the Force. And Leia says Leia tells Rey that she felt it as well, and that hope will help them rebuild the Resistance, and that we have everything we need right here to keep the Resistance alive. Now, that's not the ending shot of the film. The ending shot of the film is back on Canto Bight, where they are the stable kids talking about what just happened. It's again become a story, it became a legend that spread throughout the galaxy. And you see the kind of master say, scram out of here, kids, get back to work. And you see the one little boy that had an interaction with Rose, and Rose actually gave her Resistance ring. You see him go to get his broom, and he uses the Force to take the broom. He starts sweeping. Kid doesn't even notice it. He just did it. And in the last shot is him with his Resistance ring holding up the broom to the moons. And this film ends, and it shows you that again, the Jedi and people who believe in the Force and are Force sensitive will always exist, and they don't have to come from somewhere. They can come from anywhere. They can be anybody, and I like that. And it shows that you don't have to come from something special to be special. Anyone can do great things. I love that. I love it. Me personally, I think that's fantastic. It's, again, and people are saying, well, they're not for me. Well, first of all, the Jedi are not supposed to breed. So how do you think Force-sensitive people came about? If you're a Jedi, you're not supposed to get married, so you can't have kids. So how are Jedi going to come about? Because there's just people that come from anywhere that are Force-sensitive. Not only that, but yeah, people can come from anywhere. Not only that, but I mean, I forgot what I was going to go with. Oh, the other point I was going to have was I was going to bring Harry Potter into this. Oh my God, there are mudbloods. There are people that have magical powers that don't have magical parents. You can come from anywhere in Star Wars. Anywhere you can be special. You can have abilities, but you don't have to have people. You don't have to have parents or lineage that breeds that. You can be your own person. So I like it. I like the film. That's a fantastic way to end it. I think it's a great film. Great film. Now, let's go overall really quick because I'm realizing I'm really long. So let's just go overall and discuss some things real quick. But that's a lot of it. So where do the Rebels go from here? I mean, they're low in numbers. They don't have a lot of people left. And they're just all on the Falcon. How does it go from here? How will they play Leia out? Carrie Fisher has unfortunately passed away. She's as of now, Princess Leia is living. I'm curious to see how they do it. I'm sure J.J. Abrams can find a way. Is she just going to be on a cruiser trying to gain allies? Is she going to she's going to be like, oh, there's Leia on that ship, blows up. I don't know what they're going to do, but all I hope is it's done tastefully and it's done appropriately. That's all I can ask for, as best as possible. Obviously, the further circumstances, I understand. Also, will the young stable boy play a role down the line? Will he be part of Rian Johnson's trilogy that he's going to work on that is not even part of the Skywalker saga? I'm curious. I'm really curious. But yeah, those are my questions going forward. And now I'm just going to address, there were some thoughts that really didn't fit in anywhere particular that friends of mine had, concerns rather. So I'm just going to go over them really quick. Because they're overall thoughts. Some believe that the film was too comedic. Some of the lines didn't work, and Star Wars shouldn't be funny. I mean, each Star Wars is kind of different. The original 3, there was actually a few lines there was a few parts that are like, oh, that's kind of funny. Like you laugh at, and it's fun. I mean, Star Wars supposed to be this really serious? Really, is it really serious when Han Solo goes Yahoo? Really, like that? Like there's parts where you can have fun and have levity in a film. I mean, yeah, in one or two places, maybe the one-liners or the goofiness maybe shouldn't have been there, but it's fine. Like, comedy's always kind of been there in Star Wars. I mean, there's funny lines in 4, 5, 6. I mean, 1 tries to be funny, 2 tries to be funny, 3 tries to be funny at times. There's moments where, yeah, there is levity and there is humor. It's totally okay. I don't mind it whatsoever. And people saying it's not part of Star Wars, it's always been part of Star Wars. It's just done differently. George Lucas tried to have Jar Jar be funny, while in 4, 5, and 6, the characters just had nice little quick lines at each other. It's just different types of comedy. It's perfectly fine. Comedy has always been an element of Star Wars. It just doesn't overtake it. I mean, Marvel movies have comedy. All these action movies have some comedy moments. 1 or 2 places, yeah, does it overstay? Does it not really feel like it's necessary? Yeah. But overall, it doesn't overpopulate the film. I think it's appropriate when they're there, for the most part. One person believes that, well, not one person, but another point that I've been given was someone says that Kylo Ren appears weak, which I don't think so. I think Kylo killed Supreme Leader Snoke. He killed his master. He defied him, and now he is the one in control. He is the one that's all powerful. I mean, yeah, I can kind of see that, and yet he's not really accomplished a whole lot. I mean, he lost in a battle to Rey. He was tricked by Luke Skywalker. He hasn't really done, like, Vader cut Luke's hand off and defeated him in battle, and he froze Han Solo and carbonite. He accomplished many things that were evil, while Kylo hasn't done a whole lot of that. I mean, he has obviously killed Snoke, but others his achievements aren't as high, but I still think he doesn't appear weak. He's just not as strong as Vader. But Vader is one of a kind. I don't think you're ever going to get a villain like Vader. But I think Kylo Ren's his own kind of villain, and I think he's perfectly fine. I don't think he appears weak at all. I mean, he is now unhinged, and he has control of his whole army, not to mention the Knights of Ren that'll probably play a part in Episode 9, and he has a whole army behind him. I don't think he really is that weak. I think he's very powerful. So I think he's perfectly fine. I have another note here. Apparently, I got someone saying that the film was poorly directed, which I don't know how you could say that. I really don't know how you can say that. To get the performances out of the scenes that were there, to get the incredible shots that were presented, to get the incredible set pieces, and I can completely disagree with poorly directed. Rian Johnson directed a fantastic film. It was beautiful to look at. He got great performances out of the fantastic actors that were on the set. He did a great job. I can't see anywhere where it was poorly directed at all. Film is just a jumbled version of Empire. I mean, I could definitely see that. I mean, Force Awakens was pretty much A New Hope, almost to a T, while the Empire, I see parts where, yeah, you could say it's Empire, and parts of Return of the Jedi all jumbled up in different places. I mean, there's the walkers attacking a base, much like the opening of Empire, but it's at the end this time. I can see that, but much like George Lucas himself once said, he's like, you don't want to repeat, but you want to rhyme. You want to have things feel the same, but you don't want them to be the same. And yeah, there was enough different in this film to make me to have that be ignored and have that be looked past. It just, I mean, everything's gonna feel a little bit like the same. It's just, can you make it be enough different? And yeah, this film does enough different to where you can make that argument that, yeah, there's parts of Empire, but it's not distracting. It's not something that you immediately see. I mean, for crying out loud, in Force Awakens, they openly say it's just a bigger Death Star, a Starkiller base. This one, they hide it a lot better, and it's hidden to the point where it doesn't affect me whatsoever. So I don't find that to be a problem. Someone saying that some say that the film accomplished nothing. I really don't know if you could say that. I mean, the Resistance is dwindling now. They have next to nobody left. Their numbers are down. Kylo Ren is now in full control of the First Order. I would say that a lot has been accomplished and a lot has changed, at least in my opinion. I mean, Luke Skywalker is now a Force ghost. A lot has changed since the end of Force Awakens. Snoke is no more. Phasma is no more. Not only is the First Order under new management, basically, but now the Resistance has to completely rebuild. Rey has to completely rebuild. She doesn't even have a lightsaber. So yeah, a lot has changed. So I don't agree with that whatsoever. No true lightsaber duels. I got that from a few friends. Look, not every Star Wars film has to have lightsaber versus lightsaber. I mean, this had a fantastic fight scene between Kylo and Rey and the Praetorian Guards. That was a great fight scene. Just because Kylo and Rey never clashed sabers doesn't mean it's not a good film. It's not. It shouldn't be. It's not good, or it's not interesting. I completely disagree with that. I mean, just because it doesn't have a lightsaber duel doesn't mean it's ooh. I mean, Rogue One was fantastic, and the only lightsaber scene was Darth Vader ripping apart little guards. And in this one, yeah, once again, it's Kylo and Rey having a great fight with Praetorian Guards. I think it's awesome. You don't have to have saber versus saber for it to be Star Wars. I mean, it has lightsabers in it. It has the Force in it. It has space battles in it. That's all you need for it to be Star Wars. It still felt like Star Wars. It was a different Star Wars film, but it was still Star Wars. So I don't really find that to be a strong argument against why the film wasn't good. This was a completely different Star Wars film than what we're used to. But I think that's okay. Star Wars shouldn't always be the same thing. It should be ever-changing and evolving, just like everything. And it evolved in the correct way, in my opinion, and in the right direction. I got a few complaints about no Lando Calrissian. Look, I want to see Lando again just as much as anyone else, but the director said there wasn't a place for him, and looking back, yeah, I don't really see a spot that where he could have came in. If anything, he is perfect for episode 9 now. He is a prime spot right now, because I think what they can say is that Lando didn't get the signal, got the signal late. He came to Crate, but he just wasn't in time. And he's talking to Leia, and if Leia does eventually is in the film gonna die, I would say Lando is perfect to take charge. So yeah, I think there's a perfect spot for Lando in episode 9. If he's not in 9, yeah, I'd be disappointed too. But again, I'm gonna take what the film gives me and judge it based off what it gives me, not what it doesn't give me. So again, that's where I see it. Look, I would have loved Lando in it, but I don't see a place for him in this one. If anything, he has a prime spot in 9, and I think that'd be perfect if he does show up in 9. If not, I'll be I'll be disappointed. But again, I'll take what the film gives me. Then but this is a great argument. Oh my God, I'm an hour and a half basically in, and I'm gonna break into this. Is Rey a Mary Sue? I feel like I can make a whole video on this anyway, but I'm gonna go by really quick. Okay, so for those who don't know, the term Mary Sue basically is a character that is perfect, learns everything quick, does everything on her own, no flaws whatsoever. Daisy Ridley has been asked about this, and she doesn't believe so. She doesn't see it. And I mean, obviously, the thing with actors is, I mean, I can't really talk too much, but I have taken acting classes. I do know a lot about acting, not a lot, but I know of acting. And you have to become your character. You are your character, and you see everything about your character. You have your past, you have your future, you have your present. How are you going to react in this situation? If she had to play Rey in a modern setting, she would know how Rey would act in everything. That's what actors do. They become the character. So I think she would know. I mean, she obviously probably wouldn't say, but I think she would know. But also, I mean, are there points where you can make the argument? Yeah, there are definitely points, but I don't know. I don't see it terribly much. Like, I can definitely see where somewhere say, well, she just knows how to use the Force, and she doesn't. Again, she comes from nothing. She much like any Force wielder, they kind of have that a little bit to them, but it just doesn't come out. I mean, Anakin from episode 1, he doesn't do as much as uses the Force as much as Rey does, but he's still the only human to ever win a pod race. He's still using his Force reflexes and abilities. So it's still in him a little bit, much like it's still kind of in Rey. She doesn't use a whole lot. I mean, some say, well, she could just understand a droid. I mean, yeah, look at her in Jakku. All she does is deal with traitors and droids. Of course, I think she would understand a droid just fine. So I think I don't mind that. Some say, well, she just learns how to use a mind trick. I mean, yeah, the stories have been passed down of what the Jedi can do. So obviously she has, like, well, people can do this. Let me give it a shot. She tries it. I mean, she's not a perfect shot with a blaster. She's not. I mean, she kind of knows how to take apart, like, and fix the Falcon. But I mean, what does she do all day? She goes in and she takes parts away from an Imperial cruiser. She knows how parts work and how mechanics work. She knows these things, and it's all explained why she knows these things. It's not that she just knows them and she's really good. It's she has a history that you understand where she can understand these things. So yeah, I mean, I could see where people could see and have some merit to the Mary Sue argument, but personally, I don't think she's a true Mary Sue. I think she has enough in her that she fights for, and that she doesn't just get, she earns, that you can make the argument that she's not just that she's a regular Mary Sue. I think there are some elements to that, but I think overall I don't think you can label her as that, at least me personally. That's where I see it. I mean, I'm not a full-time film critic. I haven't studied cinema extensively, but I know enough, I feel like, that I can say that I don't believe she's a full-fledged Mary Sue. Finally, and this will be my last point in talking about the film. Also, if you can't guess, I'm not gonna. If you're expecting a rating, 5 out of 5. It's a great film, and I'll talk about maybe where my placement is. But now, my final thoughts are: should this film, or any film really, be judged by the choices decided upon by the filmmakers or how those choices are presented and carried out. In simpler terms, should The Last Jedi be a fulfillment of fans' desires or be a good film with the choices it makes? Because what I see a lot of, especially in the complaints that have been given to me by a number of friends of mine, is that they were not things that they wanted or expected. People didn't expect Snoke to just die and be no one really interesting. They wanted him to be something different. No one just expected Phasma to just die. No one wanted Luke to act the way he did. So, should a film have to fulfill the audience's desires and wishes, or should it make its own choices and carry them out to the best of its ability? Me personally, I think we should always take what the film gives us and say, okay, that's what the film gave me. How did it do with those choices it makes? How did it do choosing to just kill Snoke? How did it do just choosing to have Phasma die? How did it do choosing Luke to kind of become this begrudged, upset human being? Jedi. They were done extremely well, for the most part. Luke is completely understandable in how he acts. Snoke doesn't need to be someone special. The Emperor wasn't anyone special until the prequels. He was just the big bad guy. Snoke was the big bad guy. Just because he dies at the hands of Kylo Ren, that means more for Kylo. That's what really matters. You know, just because it wasn't something you expected or wanted doesn't mean that the film doesn't give you a good enough explanation of the choice it made. The film gives these bold, challenging choices, and what the film does is it explains them and produces them in a fantastic way, for the most part. So, I think films should always... I don't think I should go into a film saying, okay, I think that character is going to act like that, I think they should act like that. I shouldn't go into them expecting these things. I should watch the film and then I can make predictions and guesses and see where the film lies. Because the film is giving it to me. It's not what I want to get out of the film. It's what the film is going to present to me. And does it do it good? Does it do it in a good enough way that it's great? Yes. The Last Jedi presents these ideas and concepts in a fantastic way to where I accept them and I say, great job. Bravo. Some people I know look at these choices and say, those aren't what I wanted. Those are not what I expected. This is not what it should be. This is wrong. Well, it's not wrong. It's not what you wanted or expected. Just because it's not what you wanted or expected doesn't mean it's wrong. Not only that, but I ask, well, if they weren't what you expected, how was what you got? It wasn't what you wanted, but did it explain it enough to where you accepted it? Probably not, because you probably had your mind set going in. And when you do that, you shut yourself off from other ideas and concepts. Rey's parents didn't have to be anyone special, but you wanted them to be special because you wanted that moment. But then once you get the answer you wanted, what then? They're Obi-Wan. You're the daughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Oh man, that's so cool. But where does she go from there? Yeah, she's Obi-Wan Kenobi's daughter. So what? Now what? Now what? She gets Obi-Wan's lightsaber, and Obi-Wan talks to her. Or even if she was Luke, now Luke talks to her a little bit differently. It doesn't bring about the interest that you think. Now that Rey's parents are nobody, she is her own person. You care more about Rey. You were caring more about who Rey's parents were than Rey. Now you have to care about Rey because Rey is her own person. Well, who was Snoke? Snoke, could it be Jar Jar? Could it be Mace Windu? Could it be Palpatine? Could it be Plagueis? Snoke's just an evil bad guy. He's just the main guy. And again, he's not the focus. The focus on Kylo. It's more his fall and his death is the spawn of a powerful, dangerous Kylo Ren. That's what's more important here. Otherwise, you'd be saying, dude, that's Darth Plagueis. Darth Plagueis is bad. You'd be focusing on that when the focus should not be on Snoke. It should be on Kylo Ren. It's Kylo Ren is the villain of this new trilogy, not Snoke. Snoke, his story is there and gone. Palpatine isn't the big focus of the trilogy, of the original trilogy. It's Darth Vader. Darth Vader is the focus. You should focus on what's the focus. Like when we watched the original trilogy, we're more focused on Darth Vader, Luke, Leia, and Han. Not Obi-Wan. If you're watching the prequels first, you were like, "Oh, I can't wait to see what Obi-Wan does." Obi-Wan dies in the first one and comes back as Force Ghost 2 and 3, kind of for a little bit. Then you'd be disappointed. Well, why are they more in there? Because it's not about him. It's about the main characters that we started off with. Just like in this film, it's not about the last trilogy. It's about who we are focusing on. It's not about who Snoke could have been, whose Rey's parents are, who is Captain Phasma. Well, kind of Captain Phasma. Captain Phasma not so much. But it's not about that. It's about the focus isn't on them. The focus is on these characters. The focus is on Rey, not her parents. The focus is on Kylo, not the Supreme Leader. That's who the focus should be on, because that's where the focus is supposed to be. I think people are losing sight of that. People want to see these callbacks, and people want to see their expectations be met, when what it should be is what the film is giving you. And what the film is saying is these characters are more important than their history. And that's what it should be. That's what the film wants to focus on. So how does the film do when focusing on it? It does fantastic. When it focuses on Rey, it's great. When it focuses on Kylo, it's really good. That's what's important. It's about what the film gives you and how it does, not what you expect and not what you want. So, that's my full review on Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. In terms of where I rank it personally, I think New Hope and Empire, I don't know where they go, but they're two of my favorites. I don't know where I'd probably say the original Star Wars is probably my favorite, if not maybe Empire. But they're kind of the top two. Return of the Jedi is kind of an outlier. I'm not the biggest fan of Return of the Jedi. I do like it, but it's not my favorite. I guess then I would probably go Star Wars and Empire, New Hope and Empire, probably interchangeable at 1 and 2. Then probably Last Jedi, honestly, and then probably Rogue One, and then Return of the Jedi. I mean, I have to rewatch Return of the Jedi now because maybe I'm making a bold claim that I like Rogue One more than it, but yeah, but I mean, those are probably my top 5. And then Revenge of the Sith is still really good. I love the fight scene of Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, take it or leave it, and then Attack of the Clones, a movie, blah. But yeah, that's where I have them. I don't think I forgot anything. Yeah, once I talked about the fight scene. 2, 3, Revenge of the Sith, I really liked. 4 and 5 are 2 of my favorites. Return of the Jedi is pretty good. Oh, Force Awakens, that's the other one. Force Awakens is probably outside Return of the Jedi. Yeah, so I think it would probably go, if I had to guess, I'm going to say original Star Wars, New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Last Jedi, Rogue One, and then Return of the Jedi, then Force Awakens, then Revenge of the Sith, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, and then Clone Wars movie. So those are where I rank all the Star Wars films. That's my official, unofficial ranking. Yeah. And then we'll see where Solo goes, because, I cannot wait for Solo. That'll be another review for another time. But thank you guys so much for watching this. If anyone watched this, if you did, oh my God, I love you very much for listening to my voice for over an hour and a half. I really appreciate you just caring enough to listen to me ramble on and talk about a film that I love, because that's what I like to do. So I appreciate the hell out of whoever you are and wherever you are. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. Don't forget to check out all the other content on this channel. And yeah, may the Force be with you always.